Hello, friends. When we start thinking about fashion, one country always comes to mind: Italy. And, by the way, it's not strange at all. Italy and fashion have long been intertwined. We all accept it as a given and, of course, an undeniable fact. Italy has been a country of great cultural heritage since the Middle Ages, where the topic of fashion was discussed on par with politics or music. Italian tailors were the first to switch from linen to velvet and silk. The first Italian fashion show took place in Milan, featuring 40 of the most famous designers of that time. The inaugural show was so well received that it became an annual tradition, giving the city the status of not only the capital of Italian fashion but perhaps even global fashion. And, of course, Hollywood should not be forgotten. American screen stars flocked to Italy one after another to take home the most luxurious outfits for the upcoming red carpet. Gucci, Armani, Versace, Valentino, and Dolce & Gabbana, all of them have become an indispensable part of not only Italian fashion history, but also, perhaps, each of us. After all, these renowned and well-known names have been dictating the latest fashion trends worldwide for decades. Even the most local and modest producer, one way or another, imitates them and aspires to grow up to their level. Today, we will introduce you to the most famous brand of clothing, accessories, and cosmetics worldwide. Yes, friends. It's Dolce & Gabbana. And together with you, we will go through the entire journey that its creators undertook. Domenico Dolce and Stefano Gabbana were born, like most of the heroes of our video, in ordinary families. Domenico on August 13, 1958, and Stefano on November 14, 1962. Domenico's father, Alfonso Dolce, owned a small sewing workshop in Sicily and was known for his strictness and cruelty. His mother worked as a manager in a lingerie store. The designer often recalls his childhood, saying that it was not the easiest time for his family. His father's workshop barely brought in any income, and as a result, Domenico and his siblings received new toys only a few times a year. The father often took his son to work with him to pass on the family trade. Alfonso's efforts did not go in vain. At the age of 6, Domenico could sew excellently, even though his first creations were made from patches and his models were dolls. He worked hard, achieved noticeable success, earning him the nickname Mozart. School was also enjoyable for him. He completed all his homework excellently. After finishing school, everyone expected him to work in his father's workshop, but Domenico had different plans. Immediately after graduating, he enrolled in the Milan Institute, or the School of Design and Fashion, and simultaneously began studying at the Palermo Art School. His education was a continuous pleasure, spending days cutting and sewing. He learned many secrets from well-known designers of that time and even had the opportunity to intern at one of the famous fashion houses. All of this soon helped him easily find a job as an assistant in a sewing workshop. It's worth noting that working in the workshop was where he met Stefano Gabbana. This meeting forever changed his life. As for the second hero of our video, Stefano was born in Venice but spent his entire conscious life in Milan. Stefano's childhood was the opposite of Domenico's. His future as a fashion designer was set in motion by his father, a successful Milanese fashion designer who led an active social life. Stefano's mother worked as a laundrywoman and did not have much money. The family's financial situation was supported by the same father who never denied his illegitimate son and often took him to parties and social events. Thanks to his father, Stefano developed a desire to create something beautiful from an early age. He taught himself to draw, with Elio Fiorucci as his favorite designer. Stefano wanted to draw and put everything on paper: huge paintings, small miniatures, imaginative scenes, people, nature, anything, as long as he could create. In the end, the young man's efforts paid off. He easily enrolled in an art college and, upon completion, received a diploma as a creative director. Working in one of Milan's workshops became the starting point or even a kind of ground zero from which his new life began. Initially, Stefano and Domenico did not like each other at all, and their collaboration brought constant discomfort and failure. The capital city weighed on them emotionally and physically. Both struggled in modest rented apartments, eating reheated rice porridge for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They wandered through the cheapest fabric stores, hoping to find something worthwhile. The reason for this was their similar views on fashion. Stefano and Domenico admired the styles of the 50s to 60s and dreamed of creating something unique and distinctive. It happens when two completely different people share the same perspective on things and complement each other. Domenico could sew and create clothing with his hands, while Stefano enjoyed designing and drawing. This led them to the idea of something independent and of their own, allowing them to express themselves without the constraints of their main job in the sewing workshop. Moreover, neither of them liked what they were creating there. The focus was on cheap and furious fashion, with no room for expressing their inner selves. This could have been the beginning of something new and significant. Unexpectedly, Stefano, who was younger than Domenico, received a draft notice for the army. After just a couple of months of service, he had to forget about his career and all the previously planned plans for 2 whole years. Domenico stayed at his job, eagerly awaiting his colleague's return. These 2 years were agonizing for both of them. They both wanted to start their own business as soon as possible and saved money for it. Indeed, when Stefano returned home in 1982, Domenico presented him with an offer. Dolce suggested Stefano open their own workshop where they could create what they both liked. After accumulating the necessary sum, the two men found a small space on the outskirts and purchased the equipment needed for their first project. Initially, the plan was for the studio to specialize in fashion consulting services. However, after a couple of months, it became evident that they couldn't survive on consultations alone. They faced a choice: either close their company and go back to working for someone else, or take the risk and see what happens. As you may have guessed, they decided to create their first joint collection under the new brand Dolce Gabbana. Financial difficulties were evident. The first show took place in a rented apartment with curtains made from ordinary white sheets, and friends served as models and invited guests. Stefano personally designed all the clothing, while Domenico brought his fantasies to life, sewing all the outfits and making slight adjustments for practicality. They created something new, something that hadn't existed before. It was bold decision-making that resonated with their friends. They ordered pieces from the so-called collection and even recommended it to their own friends. In essence, the first sales were driven by word of mouth, and the next show took place in a rented cafe with a much larger audience, including critics who praised the collection as something completely unique and groundbreaking. Gradually, day by day, month by month, people noticed the young men with an unconventional approach to fashion. They gained new connections. However, it could have remained just a hobby or a small business if it weren't for the men's strong desire to showcase their product to a wider audience. Of course, to be noticed, one must participate in a fashion show, but they were still far from that. The client base grew, along with the ambitions of our heroes. They began looking for various opportunities to join Milan Fashion Week. For 2 years, they faced rejections since nobody in the big fashion world took them seriously. After all, how many others like them were there worldwide? Not everyone gets the chance to showcase their product. But the persistence and determination of the men eventually paid off. In 1986, they received a letter that addressed their repeated requests, stating that they could present their women's collection, Real Women, alongside other famous brands and renowned fashion houses at the end of Milan Fashion Week. This was their golden opportunity. However, receiving an invitation is one thing, and not embarrassing themselves is another. The men were not prepared for such a turn of events. They sent participation requests automatically, expecting rejections each time. But now, they didn't know what to do. I think it's needless to say that participating in a fashion show on the world's most prestigious runway involves enormous costs and effort. The show is prepared for 6 months, and each brand and designer has a team of professional models. Stefano and Domenico had none of this. Contemplating how to get out of this situation, they decided to go all the way. Therefore, instead of professional models, they presented the collection with ordinary Italian women, friends, friends of friends, friends of friends' friends. Anyone who could meet the requirements and simply not fall on the runway was invited as a model. Sometimes a woman doesn't realize how sexy she is until she puts on our clothing. Standing in front of the mirror in the fitting room, she suddenly realizes, "I have a beautiful body," said Domenico Dolce and Stefano Gabbana one day. So it happened that the designers had to take on debt to create a collection. There were also no funds for purchasing accessories to complement the clothing, all of them were the personal embellishments of the invited models. Despite such difficulties, the collection received very positive reviews in the press, but still proved to be unprofitable for the partners. So much so that Stefano and Domenico were considering closing their damn business. Everything they had worked so hard for seemed to be in vain. And, as it turned out, even participating in Milan Fashion Week did not guarantee success. They were crushed, and their pride was simply humiliated. But at the moment when their workshop was already padlocked, the Dolce family came to the rescue. It was his parents who helped the young designers settle their debts with their savings, which they had been saving for a house. All debts were paid off, and work on the joint project continued. With lowered spirits and eyes barely burning, the pair of failures needed just a few months to sew another collection, which was presented at Milan Collezione. In just one day, this collection made the duo favorites among thousands of fashion enthusiasts. As the protagonists themselves recalled, "If it weren't for what happened then, you probably would have never heard of a brand like Dolce and Gabbana. And we would be somewhere working in an office and leading an ordinary life. Because back then, we decided that if this show fails, it means it's time to leave this business." But what happened was something even the geniuses couldn't imagine. Their product took off. Moreover, it took off so much that numerous orders poured in from retail store chains and boutiques. Everyone wanted to get the newest and most fashionable collection as quickly as possible, faster than their competitors. The following year, 1987, became pivotal for the young brand. The men managed to open their first showroom and also began a collaboration with a Japanese company, which became the brand's official representative in its territory. In the same year, the world saw the first lines of underwear and swimsuits, and the Sicilian dress, which Madonna herself loved, made its appearance. By the way, she appeared in a Dolce and Gabbana corset at the Cannes Film Festival, causing a sensation in the press. Madonna also ordered 1,500 suits from the brand, specially created for the singer and her world tour, The Girly Show. It was the best advertising in the world. At that point, it became clear that there was no turning back. Madonna became a regular customer of the young brand, and other global celebrities increasingly turned to the designers. Until 1990, several limited collections were released, and each found its buyer. Dolce & Gabbana not only became a benchmark for beauty and prestige, but the brand also became associated with wealth and luxury, and every piece of clothing met the standards of celebrities. Naturally, such stunning success had an impact on the financial side of things. Now, the two former failures could afford literally everything. The year 1990 became significant for the designers. In this year, the first Dolce & Gabbana men's collection was presented, which immediately received the prestigious Woolmark Award. Thanks to it, the brand managed to capture not only the female, but also the male half of the affluent audience. The lists of regular customers grew daily, including Sting and even Woody Harrelson. And so it happened that within just 10 years from the start, the company transformed from a small atelier on the verge of closure into the mega-popular brand Dolce & Gabbana. In addition to stylish, vibrant clothing, the fashion house always paid special attention to its line of accessories. Thus, in 1991, the first collection of the famous Dolce & Gabbana scarves was released, and in 1992, a collection of men's ties was created. In the same year, the first branded fragrance was introduced, receiving an award from the International Academy of Perfumery. However, from 1995 to the 2000s, the period entered the history of Dolce & Gabbana as one of the most challenging. The designers tried various ways to stay afloat and experimented with styles. They raised the bar so high that now people expected something cosmic and incredible from them. They created a feminine grunge-style collection called Ladylike. They incorporated minimalist prints into their clothing and were among the first to introduce leopard print, which remains popular to this day. Yes, friends, everything related to leopard print today was invented by these two geniuses. At the same time, the famous little handbags and pointed-toe shoes began to appear. In general, money poured in for the designers in buckets. They began expanding their network of stores not only in Italy but far beyond its borders. In the early 90s, several boutiques were opened in Singapore, Seoul, and Hong Kong. Another global success was the stage collection of clothing created specifically for Whitney Houston's World Tour. The brand's popularity spread worldwide, reaching Hollywood, where almost every red carpet event now features Dolce & Gabbana outfits, and movie stars choose the brand's dresses for their excellent design and rich decor. In 2001, the designers created costumes for Kylie Minogue, and in 2006, they even tailored uniforms for the Italian national football team. The most secretive and profitable show of the brand took place in 2012. The Haute Couture Alta Moda Collection show was held under strict confidentiality. Guests were prohibited from taking photos and using any social media during the presentation. The presented outfits were so luxurious and beautiful that immediately after the show, 73 sets of clothing were purchased. I don't want to see these outfits on the Hollywood red carpet. This collection is exclusively for our private clients. They want to get exclusive items and are unlikely to be pleased to see their dresses on celebrities, in advertisements, or magazines, confessed Domenico Dolce. In practically every collection, the designers expressed their love for Italy. The Dolce & Gabbana advertising campaign stands out with its unique flair. Casual family-style photo shoots have long become the brand's signature. They feature a traditional family dinner, a seaside stroll, weddings, and celebrations. The renowned Italian actress Monica Bellucci is the main muse for Domenico and Stefano. But not everything was as smooth as it seems. In 2009, the world was shocked by a scandal. The Italian government accused the company owners of concealing income, specifically an amount of 1 billion euros. The court sentenced both designers to 1 year and 8 months in prison and a fine of 500,000 euros, while the company's accountant received a 20-month prison sentence. The company itself was fined 343 million euros. However, on October 24, 2014, Domenico Dolce and Stefano Gabbana were declared innocent of tax evasion by the Italian Supreme Court. Regarding the designers' personal lives, it has always intrigued the public. Since 1985, Stefano and Domenico lived together while keeping their relationship private. Only in 2000 did they admit that they had been a couple all this time. But I wouldn't want to delve too much into these delicate topics in this video. It's their personal life. I'm more interested in it from a business perspective. By the way, at the moment, the designers maintain only business relations. The Dolce & Gabbana logo is probably already known to everyone, from school children to people of advanced age. It consists of the letters D and G arranged in a specific way with an and symbol between them. And I think it's not hard to guess that these are the first letters of their surnames. Dolce & Gabbana made their logo iconic and instantly recognizable on different continents, but they still couldn't secure the corresponding internet address dg.com. In fact, dg.com is one of the oldest domains, registered in 1986 by the computer company Data General, which no longer exists. After this company closed in 1999, its URL passed into the hands of UMC, an American multinational corporation. Later, the domain name lost its owner again, and in 2010, a real war began for it between Dolce and Gabbana and the Dollar General Corporation. Unfortunately, Dolce and Gabbana lost. Dolce and Gabbana is also actively involved in Italy's sports life. Since 2004, the company has been designing football uniforms for the Milan Football Club. Besides, Milan players wear Dolce and Gabbana clothing when attending official events outside the field. The design duo also created costumes for the Italian national football team, as I mentioned earlier. Players wear them when attending social events. In 2010, Dolce and Gabbana signed a 3-year contract with the British football club Chelsea. Under the agreement, the designers undertook to develop sports uniforms and clothing worn by players off the field, as well as the entire club staff. The sportswear for the club included a dark blue suit with a lion emblem on the breast pocket. The designers also redesigned the club's lounge and the main office's reception. In 2006, Dolce and Gabbana opened Le Gold, a venue with a cafe, bar, bistro, and restaurants. In the same year, the company, in partnership with Motorola, released the Motorola V3i Dolce and Gabbana mobile phone. In 2009, the brand, in collaboration with Sony Ericsson, presented the Giallo flip phone, adorned with 24-karat gold details and the designer house's logo. These were exclusive items for the chosen ones in our world. Furthermore, Dolce and Gabbana collaborated with the French car company Citroën. Together, they designed the C3 Pluriel car model. After the success of this model, the fashion house and the car concern signed a contract to produce exclusive cars in the C3 and C3 Pluriel series. Currently, there are more than 250 monobrand Dolce and Gabbana stores, and the atelier's products are sold in more than 80 countries worldwide. Dolce and Gabbana is one of the youngest fashion houses in the world and one of the most popular. They managed to emphasize true female beauty with a slightly released top from under the outerwear. The success story of Dolce and Gabbana is the adventure of two Italians in love with life who know how to present a person beautifully. The fashion house has published over 20 books about its history and development, collections, and events worldwide. Part of the revenue from the sale of fashion designers was donated to charity. In general, that's the story of the formation of the most fashionable brand that, in such a short time, managed to achieve unprecedented heights. However, at the beginning of the journey, the men faced failures and setbacks at every step. They had practically given up, but they managed to wait for their shining hour. I deliberately didn't spend much time on the clothes, accessories, and other things because a large number of collections are released annually. And I think there is no point in that. The most important thing is to remember that everything starts small, namely with a simple desire to act. Share your opinion in the comments. How do you feel about this brand? But for today, that's all. Evaluate the video, and see you soon. Bye.